Alright, y'all, we're back with another Black Clover mode video, and today we're going to be covering character builds and synergies. So basically, we're going to show you everything that you need to be building on the character, from gear to skill pages to talents and synergies. Now, first things first, I'd like to shout out Gikkus for overlooking a lot of this to make sure that I had a lot of the accurate information to make sure to bring you the best possible, gears and skill pages and whatnot. And then the Discord staff team as well. All right, so first things first, we're going to be covering Yami, seasonal Yami. He's going to start off with the attack set, crit damage set, and speed set, the enhanced versions. So basically the ones that you get more like at stage 13 and through 15. Now, of course, you can substitute. The substitutes are mainly the ones that are the lesser versions. You can use those. But the main ones that you're going to be looking for are the enhanced versions. Of course, the main stats are going to be attack, and then crit rate and crit damage. Skill page, of course, his, and then you have Fuegoleons as a secondary option. It is actually a very good skill page for him, so if you have it, don't be afraid to use it on him. And then, of course, you have the Breath of Darkness, which we all got for free, so you also have that as an option as well if you do not have the other two. Later on, I'll also be covering Fauna's skill page, which also will be coming in the near future. But as of right now, I'm not going to go too into it because you don't need it. Then you have your talents. Of course, noted for majority of the characters, they're going to have very similar defensive and supportive talents. Because realistically, all the other talents that are also in those trees, they're not really the best. And then you have your damage talents, your attack ones. They'll vary depending on your character. But these are the ones that you're going to be using for Blue Yami. Your synergies, of course, you can have Rill, William, and Lotus. Reasoning is, he's an attacker. Having your support characters propel him further is obviously going to be the best choice, especially William and Rill. Then you have Lotus to also pair up with him, because if you're trying to do stages that are red color orientated, then of course Lotus and Blue Yami, they will just tear through everything, with Lotus inflicting all the debuffs and then Yami taking advantage of those debuffs. Alright, so next up we're going to go on to the next character. We have William Vengeance. So you want to have speed and defense. The reasoning for speed and defense is because you do want him to go first. He's your buffer. You want him to prop all his buffs that he wants for any of your other characters that he's supporting. And then you want defense to have survivability. Of course, the main stats you're going to be looking for are magic attack and defense. And then your substats are going to be a range of substats that keep him for survivability. Your substitutes will be HP if you do not have the speed or defensives. Skill page, you have his skill page, of course. It's going to give him his enhanced version of the skill, and it's obviously it's his best in slot. Then you have Sally's as a secondary option. It's very good, gives attack a boost, for your team, so it's not bad. And then obviously you have your universal skill page that you can also use, which is also a good option. But if you do not have those, you also have the SRs. Talents, very similar to the other ones. You have the damage resistance and the swiftness and all that. They're just going to be very similar throughout most of the characters. So I'm not going to really go into too much detail. Just read the icons in game and you'll know exactly what they do. And then just looking at it one time, you'll know why those are selected as the talents, because they're pretty simple. Synergies, of course, Lotus. Blue and blue. If you're trying to make a blue team, it's fun. Red Asta, of course. William boosting Red Asta, or even Yami, they're DPS dealers. It's not much to say about it. He's a buffer, so he's just doing his job supporting your main DPS. So we're going to move on to the next character. Next character is Rill, green debuffer. You want him on the speed set. The reason you want him on the speed set is you just want him to go as fast as possible and proc out all his debuffs, stuns, etc., defense downs, whatever debuffs he has, that's what you want to proc. And then your substitutes will be defensive ones to keep him alive. Then you have your main stats are going to be your magic attack and then defense. And then your substats are going to be a range between survivability and then magic attack and crit damage. Any of the four are good, but those are the four you want. Then, as for skill page, of course, Rill's is best in slot for him because it gives him the defense reduction, I believe, on his skill page. So it's good. Then you have Nozelle's as a good temporary or secondary option. And then, of course, Breath of Darkness is going to be good on a lot of characters that need attack. Not that Rill necessarily needs it, but extra boosted damage is not bad at all. Talents, very similar to the other ones. You'll have 1 or 2 that are changed between the attack ones, but the defense and the support ones are going to be remaining mainly the same. Then you have Lotus that you can pair up with him, because Lotus is good in a large range of teams because he's just insane. Then you have Charlotte. The reason you want to have Charlotte is because Charlotte is just a really good unit that you could just pair realistically with anybody. It's just, as long as you have a DPS, they can take advantage of her marks. Rill can also take advantage of him. Not as much as other characters, but he still can. And then William, of course, supporting character buffer, so it's not much to say about him. Go next. Next, we have Nozelle Silva, and he is a blue debuffer. Of course, you want him to be on speed, getting him out, doing his debuffs as soon as possible. You can have magic attack, defense, and then you're gonna have a little mix between on the substats between magic attack, defense, crit damage, and damage resist. The reason you want to do it like that is because a lot of his kit is it's kind of centered like as a bruiser in a sense. So he's not really the best character in terms of like doing damage or being a bruiser. They kind of have him in between, so he's not really that good. But if you do decide to build him, this is how he's going to be the majority of the time with these equips and skill pages. You have his skill page and then Rill's. Of course, his skill page is the best for him. It's going to enhance his skill as well. And then Rill is a good option because Rill is just a really good skill page for a lot of debuffers. So, yep. Then Breath of Darkness, universal skill. We already talked about that. Talents, realistically similar. And then synergies. Yeah, Fuegoleon, of course, because they have a combination attack together. And they kind of like bounce off of each other. Like if they have more debuffs and burns and whatever, the other one starts doing more damage, stuff like that. Pretty simple. Then you have Lotus. As expected, he's a really good unit overall. So he's probably gonna have the longest longevity than the majority of the characters that we're gonna speak about today. But yep, he's gonna be there, of course, because he just works with everything. Then you have William. He's a buffer utility, so he's good for anybody that needs some more speed, more damage, counters, whatever you want. Next up, you have Lotus. Want him speed. The reason you want him speed is you just want him to pump out all those debuffs as quick as possible, as fast as possible, extending the debuff durations. You want him to have all those debuffs always constantly on your enemy. So realistically, that's what you want. You don't really have to worry too much about damage because his damage isn't anything crazy, but adding all those debuffs will then, actually boost his own damage significantly, and then also boost the rest of your team's output as well. So that's kind of how you want to have it. Of course, main stat magic attack, you do want to have some magic attack at least, so he's just not just hitting like a wet noodle, even if he's not going to be fulfilling the role as your main DPS. Then your substats, of course, it's going to be kind of a mix because you do want him to have survivability to stay in the fight as long as possible. You have Rill. Rill's skill page is actually much better on him than his own skill page. The reason for that is Rill's skill page is just it has a higher proc chance. It's more impactful. Lotus skill page, it just gives you, I believe it's without any dupes, it's like a 2% like speed reduction, 25% chance. It's actually very, very like insignificant. Like you won't even notice the difference even if it did proc. So you don't have to worry too much about that skill page. But if you don't have Real skill page, then you can use that one. Next up, you have your synergies. Synergies, of course, he's going to synergize extremely well with Mars because Mars is his combination partner. But even without the combination, they're still both good together, regardless of the combination. They both bring things to the table that help unionize together. You want his taunts, and then that keeps Lotus alive. Lotus stays in longer. Lotus can do all the things he needs to do, debuff the opponent, lower their speed. That makes the Mars actually, not feel so sluggish. So yeah, of course you want to have Mars with him. He'll keep your Lotus alive. And then next up you have William. Talked about that earlier. And then you have Blue Yami. Blue Yami is the blue DPS, and of course you want to have him paired up with Lotus because if you're farming red stages for dungeon like stage 15, etc., they work hand in hand. Of course, I mean, for Lotus, he's gonna work good with any future blue DPS for farming red stages or whatever, because you just want a blue DPS. So yes, of course, Yami works with him. Next up, you have Leopold, a red attacker, and he is gonna be on your three 2-piece sets. So you can have 2 attack, 2 crit damage, and then 2 speed. 2 attack, of course, to increase his damage. 2 crit damage, obviously, to increase his damage, and then the 2 speed. And the reasoning for the 2 speed is Of course, you want them to cycle quicker, advance rotations faster, outspeed your opponent, all things like that. And then for your main stat, it's only going to be magic attack. The reason it's only going to be magic attack is because every 2-piece that you select is going to be the pieces that give you only attack, not the defensive or HP ones. Because every set has a fixed stat, which is going to be attack or magic attack, and then you're going to have another piece that's also attack or magic attack, and then you're going to have a defense and an HP one. So just focus straight attack. Then you have your substitutes. Don't care about that. But if you do, those are the ones you're looking for if you need it. Do not have the enhanced version of the gear. Then skill page, of course, you have Leopold's. Leopold's skill page is amazing. I believe it's a 15%. I believe it grants attack based on your max percentage of your max HP or your how much HP you have. So it's like 15%, I believe, without any dupes, which is good. And then you have Fuegoleons. Of course, Fuegoleons would work on Leopold, like he obviously. And then Breath of Darkness. And then you have your talents. And then your synergies is going to be Baltos, Sally, and Fuegoleon. Of course, they're supportive roles, and they further propel the damage that Leopold is going to be doing. And then, of course, Fuegoleon, you could put them on the same comp with Leopold because they do both burn, and that will increase each other's damage output. So they're actually relatively well used together. But do keep in mind they are of two different colors. You do have Leopold as a red, and you do have Fuegoleon as a green. Next up, you have Fuegoleon. He's going to run the 2-piece. A lot of the damage dealers going forth are going to be running like this. It's going to be 2, 2, and 2 because that way you can maximize the amount of magic attack as your main stat or attack if the character uses attack. And then your substitutes will be your attack and speed. Of course, substats, you're just going to want all the attack ones, the most common ones of, your attack, magic attack, your crit damage, and your crit rate. Skill page, his own, and then you have Leopold's as the extra option, which is obviously very good on him. And then Breath of Darkness as an extra option. Talents, I'm not going to go through that. And then your best to pair will obviously be Baltos and Sally once again, because Fuegoleon is very similar to Leopold in terms of they both burn and do damage, and they're both attackers, and they both run off of magic attack. And then, of course, he's also going to have Nozelle as one of his good pairs because they have a combination attack together and they do kind of work off of each other in their kit. You can use them, but maybe it might not be the best because Nozelle is he's kind of iffy. But if you do want to use him, he does work well with Nozelle. But you'd probably have to have both for him to actually be good. I don't know why I'm sidetracking a little bit on Nozelle. Let's keep it moving. But yeah, those are going to be the best to pair with him. Next up, you have Jack, blue attacker. He's gonna operate with the same formula, the 2, 2, and 2 sets, attack, crit damage, and speed. And then he's going to use his own skill page. And then his secondary option will be Rookie Asta's skill page. And Breath of Darkness being your final option, which most people should have. And you can just swap it off your characters whenever you need it. Best to pair will be Finral and William, logically, because they will buff him and keep him outputting damage. But then his third option of synergy will also be Yami. Now you could have all 4 on the same team, sure, but this is just an example. But anyways, you have Jack and Yami, and they have combination attack and all that. They both work off of crits, so it's kind of, they're kind of good together. It's not bad. They're just really good together. It's not much to say about it. They have a combination attack. They have a lot of things in their kit that work together. So just move on to the next character will be Charlotte. She's a red debuffer. And she's going to go straight speed. The reason you want to have straight speed is because you want her to be first. The reason you want her to be first is because you do want to inflict the mark, and you want to inflict all her debuffs before everybody else. Inflicting the mark is very important that you have her inflicting it first, so that way when your DPS goes, whether it be Rookie Asta, Red Yami, Blue Yami, whichever, you want to have the mark already applied so that if they do happen to kill the enemy, they get an additional turn. It is very important. So you do want to have speed. That's your main focus, speed. Now you can have extra attack and damage on her, of course, because she's a debuffer, and you can lower them a little bit to make it more successful that your next character that goes actually kills them. But if you're confident that your character could kill, like for example, if you're using Rookie Asta, then you can opt in for more defensive substats. But I'd probably go a little bit of a mix. I think that's the best way to go. Next up, you have her skill pages, obviously her own, and then Rill's. Good options. Breath of Darkness once again, and then Talents. Synergies, Rookie Asta, as I said before, if you use Charlotte's skills first and then use Rookie Asta to kill the enemy, since he does have a high attack ceiling, then you can easily kill the enemy and you'll get an additional turn, which makes him very good because if you ult first and then lower the enemy's HP, but then they were marked but they didn't die, then you can attack again, you kill it, and then you killed it because they have a mark, you'll get an additional turn. It gets a little bit crazy when you have them paired up together. So they're probably the best synergy. Then you have Lotus, of course, because then if you debuff with the mark on all the opponents with Charlotte, and then you use Lotus to extend the debuff durations and whatnot, then they're going to be working very well as well together. And then William, don't need to talk much about him. He's just a buffer support. He's going to be very good on a lot of teams. So he has very good synergy with many characters. Next up, we have Rookie Asta. Same formula, 2-2-2. Attack, crit damage, and speed. Substitutes, attack, and speed, but the lesser versions of the gear. Of course, stats, as much attack as possible. Everything that gives you more damage. These are going to be skill pages, is Fuegoleon's Breath of Darkness. Good. And then your SR options. And then Fauna's later on when it comes out. Next up, synergies, Finral, Charlotte, and William. Of course, all three being characters that he can synchronize off of very easily. Like Finral, of course, buffing your team. He's just good. It's very logical. A lot of people don't realize how much he's worth, but he's actually very good. If you just read his kit, he has so many things that he can bring to the table. So a lot of people invest into him. Charlotte, as I said before, Charlotte and Rookie Asta, they kind of have like the most synergy between characters. They just work really hand in hand with the marks. So it's like he's always getting all the turns and wave clearing by himself. So it's actually really good. Then you have William Vengeance. Next up, Yami Tsukihiro. And you're going to have, for this, instead of speed, you are going to have crit rate, crit damage, and attack. The reasoning for this is later on in the future, when you do happen to get his max dupes, he does have a counter in his kit. Of course, you don't want him to go faster because the faster he cycles into his turns, obviously your counter will disappear. You want him to counter without it. So you don't want him to get to his turn as fast as possible because the counter lasts, I believe, a turn or so. So you just want him to be like slow as possible, so that way enemies get to attack you first and you could counter them. And of course, you can have the option of building him speed. Speed is not an issue either. You can run him speed, but for future proofing purposes, you're probably not going to want speed because you do want him to counter and you do not want him to get into his turn as fast as possible. You actually want enemies to go before him. So he works really good in PvP as a counter as well. The enemies will just attack you and it'll just counter everything. It'll be extremely slow and everybody's building a high speed. And then of course, substats, main stats, we already know he's damage dealer, you want those. Skill pages, increases his crit rate, he's gonna crit more, gonna help his kit, it's good. Breath of Darkness, with a secondary option. Good, it increases attack all around. And then you have your third option, which will be Rookie Asta to increase his crit damage. It's not very necessary, but you can have it for extra crit damage and to hit propel your damage further. But it's more obviously on chance. You have to crit, of course. Once you crit, then the crit damage will be involved. I'd rather just take Breath of Darkness over to get that consistency. Then you have your talents, and then your synergies. Of course, you have William. So for now, if you do build the current set for future proofing, which is going to be the main ones I have listed rather than the substitutes, if you have those ones listed and you use him, you can use William to factor in that he lacks speed. So that way he does have speed. So it's like you don't really have to build him speed. You could just use William to boost his speed if you do need it, like currently. So basically you're kind of future proofing for if he does lack speed, you could just proof him for that. So William will synergize well with him right now. And then later on, you can still use William Vengeance, of course, so that way when he ults, he could give counter to your units, and then he could obviously Yami could continue countering. So that's not bad either. But then later on, you'll probably opt to William not boosting him in speed. Probably boost a different character, but you can if you need to, depending on the situation. Finral, of course, buffer, support, whatever you want to call it. Good. Charlotte, of course, Yami can take advantage of Charlotte's marks and defense downs, etc. Next up, we have Rades, Green Defender. He's going to optimize with 2 defense. He is a tank. 2 attack. The reason you want 2 attack of the enhanced version is it increases your attack and magic attack percentages, and of course his barrier revolves around his magic attack. So to increase the strength of your barrier, you do want to have magic attack, and then you want to have 2 pieces of speed. So you want to have speed, you want him to be tanky, and you want more attack so that way his magic attack increases so he could get a stronger barrier. So your main stats are going to be looking for magic attack all around, and then your substats will also be looking for magic attack and then defensive options like defense, HP, and damage res. But then if you don't have those, 4 pieces also good, because then that increases his damage though, and it also increases his attack and magic attack percentages, and then your 2-piece defense. So that does give him more of a bruiser stand, but they're still good overall. Skill pages, his and Mars, they're both good. And then of course Breath of Darkness, because it increases all attack. So that also counts his magic attack, which can also increase the strength of his barrier. So they're all 3 of those options are good. And then you have Souls as an option if you do not have the 3, but you should if you have Breath of Darkness. But if you're using it on one of your damage dealers, then you can use Souls. Talents, kind of similar to all the rest. And then best to pair is going to be Mimosa, Valtos, and Blue Yami. The reason is, if Rades is green, you're probably going to have enemies who have a red character. Blue Yami is a good counter to those red characters, so Blue Yami is good. And then you have Valtos as a buffer and support to your team, and Mimosa as a healer to keep your team alive, etc. You keep in mind, a lot of these best of pairs are just speaking individually who they pair good with, not in a whole team scenario. Next up, you have Mars, Blue Defender. He has a 2-2-2, very similar to Rades. It's going to be 2 defense, 2 HP, and 2 speed. Since you don't really need to focus too much on his attack, these stats, because obviously you want him to be tanky, you want him to be a little bit speedy so he can outspeed another Mars if possible. And then you have your substitute options, which is full force set, and then 2 extra defensive pieces. But if you do not have the 2 defensive pieces, then you could also use 2 HP pieces. You could mix and match them. It just depends what you need. Then you have your Mars skill page, and then the Rades skill page, and then you have your Soul and Asta SR skill pages as other options. Best to pair with, of course, it's going to be Lotus, because Lotus is his best pair. They're both like combination attack, and they kind of work well together, so it's not much to say about it. They're both good units. Mars is amazing, and so is Lotus. So you can use them both. Mimosa, keep Mars alive. He'll be like an unkillable tank. It's good. Then you have William, the buffer, boost speed if you want to boost your Mars, try to get some stuns off or whatever you want to do, try to get taunts, etc. Next up we have Sally, red buffer. She's going to be speed and defense. Reason, you want her to go fast, you want her to be first, she's a buffer, that's her job. Her role is to provide buffs to the team, and then defense to keep her alive. Her skill page is going to be her own, Williams, and then these SRs are going to be your other options. Talents, and then your best to pair with is of course going to be Leopold, Fuegoleon, and Rades, because she increases magic attack. That's good, because increasing magic attack increases your DPS's damage, and increasing magic attack on Rades also increases the strength of his barrier, so that's good. Next character we have Mimosa. Mimosa is a healer, green. She's going to have 2-2 and 2. You're going to have defense, your attack, and your speed pieces. This is going to make her tanky, it's going to make her heal more, and this is going to make her faster. You want all of those to keep the consistency in healing, and also keep her alive at the same time. But if you don't have those, you also have the option of putting a 4-piece of the HP, which makes her extremely tanky, and the 2 attack, so that way you could get better heals. That way, even if you get outsped, she can at least survive the hits or the onslaught that's coming. Her skill page, and then there's not really a lot of other options for secondary skill pages, but you have the Mimosa SR and the Charmy SR, which are both good. Then you have for synergies, of course, they're going to be the seasonals. She's a healer. She's probably going to fit into a lot of teams regardless. They don't have to be specifically to these characters, but these are the main characters you're probably going to be using her for majority of the time, because these are the characters that a lot of people are pulling for, which is Blue Yami, Rookie Asta, and then not Rades, but Rades is extremely good, and they're both green. And if you're trying to get through some blue stages, they're gonna keep your whole team alive easily. Well, that's gonna be all the character sheets, and that I have for you today. Later on in the future, when more characters release, I'll think about doing more character sheets, and they'll probably be posted on the channel. And then after they're posted on the channel, they'll be posted into the official Discord as well under guides. So I appreciate you guys for watching, and I hope this video has helped you. If you have any other questions, feel free to comment below. But that'll be all. Be sure to like and subscribe. I don't know what the hell that was. And y'all have a blessed day. Peace.